June 27, 1847, a lone Inuk, bundled against a wind that seemed to howl the very breath of the Arctic, reported a sight that would haunt a nation. Two ghost white ships stuck in the ice, their sails tattered, their decks eerily silent. It was the first whisper of a tragedy that would claim 129 men, the loss of Sir John Franklin's 1845 expedition still echoing through the frozen corridors of history. In the early 19th century Britain, a nation forged by empire, hunger for glory and scientific curiosity drove its explorers toward the world's most unforgiving frontiers. The Northwest Passage, an imagined sea route that could shave weeks off the voyage between Europe and Asia, had become the holy grail of naval ambition. The Royal Navy, still fresh from the Napoleonic Wars, turned its seasoned officers to this icy quest. Sir John Franklin, a veteran of the Battle of Trafalgar and former governor of Tasmania, was chosen to lead the most ambitious attempt yet. He was given two steam-powered, screw-propelled brigs, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, each outfitted with the latest in mid-century technology. Reinforced hulls, copper sheathing, a small arsenal of carronades, and a cache of provisions meant to last 3 years. The ships left Greenhithe on May 19, 1845, under a sky streaked with the orange promise of spring. Their crew, 129 strong, ranging from seasoned mariners to eager Royal Navy midshipmen, scientists, and Inuit interpreters, were a microcosm of Victorian Britain. They carried not only food and coal but also the hopes of a nation, a trove of scientific instruments and a cargo of lead-soldered tin cans, pewter plates, and a massive cache of canned goods sealed with lead solder. The plan was straightforward: sail north, force a passage through the treacherous archipelago, and return triumphantly with a new route and a bounty of natural specimens. For months the ships pushed through ice floes, charting coastlines and recording temperatures, magnetic readings, and wildlife encounters. By late summer, the Erebus and Terror had penetrated deeper than any British vessel before them, only to be trapped in a dense pack of sea ice near King William Island. The first winter came with the crushing weight of the ice against the hulls, a deafening, relentless pressure that would become a silent antagonist. The crew's discipline held firm through the first winter. They hunted seals, polar bears, and even caribou that trekked onto the ice. They rationed, they sang, they documented. But beneath the stoic veneer, the Arctic was sowing the seeds of doom. Scurvy, the age-old scourge of seafarers, reared its head despite the presence of fresh meat. The crew's diet, heavy in pemmican, hardtack, and the aforementioned lead-soldered provisions, offered little in the way of vitamin C. Their attempts to grow potatoes in heated greenhouse boxes failed under the relentless cold. By spring, the first cases of swollen, bleeding gums, bruised legs, and excruciating joint pain marked the early manifestations of the disease. As spring melted the ice, the expedition made a desperate decision. On April 24, 1846, Franklin ordered the abandonment of the ships. The crew cut away the iron rails, dismantled the boilers, and hoisted the men into 3 small boats, intending to trek southward across the ice toward the known whaling stations on the Canadian mainland. The plan was audacious. The men were armed with rifles, provisions, and a handful of maps drawn from their own observations. What followed became a grim saga of survival against an indifferent wilderness. The men struggled across a landscape of shifting floes, battling sub-zero temperatures, blinding blizzards, and relentless hunger. In the weeks that followed, bodies began to appear, frozen in the snow, each discovery a stark reminder that the Arctic tolerated no weakness. By summer 1847, the remaining survivors had either perished or been absorbed into Inuit communities, their fates unknown to the British Admiralty. When word finally reached Britain that the expedition was missing, a massive search effort was launched. Over a dozen ships scoured the Arctic, and countless Inuit guides offered testimonies of strange lights and abandoned camps. In 1850, the first physical evidence, A cairn on King William Island containing a note dated May 1850 was discovered. It read simply, "The ships are abandoned. We are perishing." The note, written by Lieutenant John Torrington, became the chilling epitaph of the expedition. The mystery deepened when, in 1859, a party led by Sir Edward Belcher uncovered a cache of human remains on the island's shoreline. These were the first bodies recovered, preserved in the cold, their faces still bearing the expressions of surprise and terror. The Royal Navy ordered an autopsy, and the results would rewrite the narrative of the disaster. The examinations, performed by Dr. William McCormick, revealed that many of the men suffered from severe lead poisoning. Microscopic analysis of bone and hair samples showed staggering concentrations of lead, levels far beyond what would be expected from normal environmental exposure. The source: the lead solder used to seal their canned provisions and the tinned rum bottles that had become a staple in the men's diet. Lead, leaching into the acidic food, had likely contributed to the crippling symptoms of fatigue, cognitive decline, and gastrointestinal distress, compounding the ravages of scurvy and frostbite. Further investigations uncovered a secondary, equally damning cause: the high incidence of tuberculosis and pneumonia among the crew. The cramped conditions aboard the ships, coupled with the damp, cold environment, had turned the men's bodies into fertile breeding grounds for infection. Subscribe to the Autopsy Files for more stories like this.